بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، قال ونهى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم المسلمين عن كلامنا أيها الثلاثة من بين من تخلف عنه. قال فاجتنبنا الناس، وقال تغيروا لنا حتى تنكرت لي في نفسي الأرض، فما هي بالأرض التي أعرف، فلبثنا على ذلك 50 ليلة، إلى آخر الحديث. أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام: رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي، رب زدني علما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم. سبحان الله بحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله بحمده سبحان الله العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. As we continue the hadith of Ka'b bin Malik radiallahu anhu, Ka'b radiallahu anhu says that now Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he told the other Sahabas, he told the believers to refrain from talking to us three, those three who remained behind at the time of Tabuk. Therefore, the people, the Sahaba, the believers acted upon this, and they remained away from these three individuals, including Ka'b radiallahu anhu. Now, in this situation, Ka'b radiallahu anhu says that that part of the land, that city, that place I used to live, I was familiar with, people were familiar with me. Now, because of this, the atmosphere had completely changed. He had become hostile against us, and the behavior and attitude towards us three was very dull. In life, we will also face similar situations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created us, He has given us Iman. In Surah Al-Ankabut, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that Alif Lam Mim, أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون ولقد فتنا الذين من قبلهم. That do the believers or do the people think that they will say آمنا, that they believe, and وهم لا يفتنون, and they will not be tested? Meaning, when you have Iman, when you have brought Iman, when you have accepted faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this world you will be tested. The test of every person is different. Some people tests are in regards to health, some are regards to wealth, some at times is regard to work, some is sometimes regarding studies, children, financial issues. So there's different tests. Even in this situation, Hazrat Ka'b radiallahu anhu, one of the great Sahabi, now he feels abandoned, he feels left out. But what did he do? He remained steadfast. He didn't lose his connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He didn't turn away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even though the people around him have stopped talking to him. Rather, he remained steadfast. He tried to continue visiting the masjid, praying the salah with the jama'at. Now, when we are overcome with problems in life, there's a different way we can approach the problem. If our mindset, if our psychology is correct, then 50% of the problem is solved. When we know that we've gone through a test, and this test is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now having that mindset, knowing that Allah is testing me, then 50% of the problem is already solved. Why? Because the approach now will be different. in comparison to a person who doesn't have iman, a person who doesn't believe in Allah. When he is tested, they complain, they lose hope, they don't know what to do, they end their life. In the COVID season, if you were to research the studies, the statistics of the suicidal rates, because of that whole situation and the atmosphere, the rates must have gone high. However, for a Muslim, for a believer, the approach is different. So when our mindset is correct, 50% of the problem is solved. 50% of the problem is solved. Now, what do? First of all, know that this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't have any control over it, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has put me into this test, and I need to try to be proactive. I need to be clever in handling this situation and this problem. So to understand that there is a challenge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when you have that, then He gives a bit of a hope in the person. Number two, what we need to do is, we need to have two things. الَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا عَلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. Those people who have sabr, they also rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They also have tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Before we continue, just like to remind myself, and just like to remind others, that when we are in a school, we have classroom rules. When we are at work, we have certain principles that we need to follow. When we are in a meeting, we have certain principles that we need to follow. So there are certain rules depending on where we are and what the situation is. Like this, when we are gathered in the masjid, in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially when we are sat in the lesson of Quran, the lesson of Hadith, there are certain rules and principles and guidelines that we need to remember. Especially in regarding to Hadith, try to think that the Hadith which has been recited, the gathering of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And when the Hadith is being discussed, a person should avoid talking to each other. First of all, a person should not sit next to the person who's going to make him talk. So if you sit separately, then automatically you won't be disturbed and distracted. So you should try to focus. Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu, Sa'id bin Musayyib radiallahu anhu, Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayhi, many of the great individuals, they would have so much respect when they were discussing a hadith. Ghaliban Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayhi, if somebody came to his house to ask for a mas'ala, for a ruling, and his daughter opened the door, and the person asking the question was about fiqhi masail, then Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayhi would come to the door and answer the question. However, if the person who's come to ask the question was regarding hadith, Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayhi would not immediately go. Instead, he would go and perform ghusl, clean himself, wear clean clothes, put itar on, perfume on, and would adorn himself in a beautiful manner, sit with respect, and then answer the question on hadith. So this is how much reverence and how much respect and love the ahadith for the ahadith. Like this, when you are sat in a gathering in the masjid especially, we should try to refrain from talking. 15 minutes, 20 minutes, inshallah, out of every moment, if we focus, will become a means of reward. And also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will inspire us and will give us the ability to practice upon what will be discussed. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put the etiquettes of and the adab of the majalis and these gatherings in our hearts, and also give us the ability to practice upon them. Allahumma ameen. So continuing with the situation. So if a person is faced with a problem, with a situation, what should he do? Number one, know that this is a challenge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number two, rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we accept that whatever is going to happen is for my good, is for my good. Because with every challenge, there's an opportunity for us to grow, for us to build ourselves. For every challenge, there's an opportunity for us to build ourselves. And if you study a hadith, in another hadith, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he explained that all the prophets went through so much hardship. That Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, from the beginning, his brothers plotted against him. They threw him in the well. alone in the well. Imagine, if somebody from your own family tried to kill you, what would be our situation? How would we react? So trials after trials, that Ibrahim alayhi wasallam, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam himself, so they face a lot of trouble. Now the hadith says that after the prophets, whosoever is close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to test his loyalty, you will be tested. You will be tested for your loyalty to see how loyal you are and how sincere you are in your words. So to know that this test is a challenge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I need to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and by relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that challenge would bring positive changes and would bring positive outcome in our lives. It'll help us to grow. It'll help us to grow. Number 3, the third thing that we can do is that, when you are playing a game, when you're playing a game, we know that this is an obstacle, this is the boss that I need to kill. So you try your best, you use all your tactics to accomplish that level in order to go into another level. What do? You stay focused. You look out to solve the situation, to solve the problem. You don't just give up. Rather, you think that how can I accomplish this? How can I complete this level? So like this in life, when we go through challenge, when you go through some test, again, think in that manner that, okay, there is a challenge in front of me. This is an obstacle. This is a test for me. How should I navigate through this, the problem? How can I look for the solution to this? So when we do this and we think positive, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us the energy to handle the situation in the correct manner. Number 4, we need to look at the larger picture. As we said in the ayat that we recited, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. We as believers, we will be tested. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has tested many people before us. So like this, we are also going to go through tests. Yes, the tests and the challenges are different comparison to the others, but the principle and the base and the foundation is already laid out in our deen. If we turn to our deen, we will find the solution. We will find a way out of it. We will find a method of handling that situation and handling the challenge. So look at the bigger picture. Look at the bigger picture. Think of the outcome after this. So if you study in these few verses in the Quran, we will understand that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see in this challenge. He wants to see that who is the truthful one and who is not loyal, who is not the truthful one. So when we go through the challenge, yes, it's going to be a difficult thing. It's going to be difficult. Those people who go to the gym at the beginning to lift the weights or to do press-ups and whatever is very difficult. It's challenging. It's difficult. It takes a lot of energy behind it. But when you put the energy and you push all your abilities behind it and put all your energy behind it, then that becomes easy for you. And it comes to a stage where nothing becomes difficult. Everything becomes easy for you. So like this, when we think about the situation and think that, okay, this challenge that I am going through and this test I am going through, I can handle it. It's not that I cannot, I can handle it, and I turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will inspire me and will guide me towards the right method and the right path. And one other way to understand the situation and the challenge is be very patient. Be very patient. So when you come across a challenge, don't react immediately. Don't react immediately, because when you react immediately, at times you regret it. So give yourself time. Give yourself time. Because when you give yourself time, you'll build patience. And when you build patience, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open the ways for you. So when you're going through something, it'll be difficult. It'll be hard. But a person should not react immediately without thinking. So tell yourself that, okay, this is something that I need to be very careful about. I need to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, it's painful, but I need to have sabr. If I have sabr, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward me for it. So if you have that sabr, you know that you can handle the situation. And then remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, لَا يُكَلِّفُ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وُسْعَهَا, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not burden a person except what he can cope with. So whatever he can cope with and whatever he has the capacity of, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will only test you in that situation. So the conclusion of this is that when we are put through test, there's two things we do. We rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have the sabr, and at the same time we have shukr as well. So sabr and tawakkul on Allah, reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and having that belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we will be able to handle the situation in the correct manner. So this is how Hazrat Ka'ab radiallahu anhu, he says that even though the people around me had stopped talking, acting upon the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the same place where I was familiar with, people knew me, I knew people, but now every single person have abandoned me, has become very dull and very dark. The whole earth has become very narrow. He has come in. Even then, he didn't lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he continued relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now moving on, one more other point. Then he says that he continued visiting the masjid. He continued visiting the masjid. Now, obviously, he wanted to see what Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would do. He wanted to see what Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would do. So, what would happen is that when Ka'ab radiallahu anhu would be praying salah, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would look towards him. But when Ka'ab radiallahu anhu would try to look towards Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would immediately look away. Immediately look away. Even though Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is upset. He's upset, but Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Rahmur Rahimin. So he says here that I would be in salah, and there will be times where I would glance here and there to see if Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is watching me. And what we learn from here is, obviously I'm not going to do the fiqh masail, the fiqh aspect of it, but if in salah for some reason, if a person didn't turn his chest away from the qibla, and he just looked here or just looked there, without turning his chest away, the namaz will not be broken. Namaz will be valid, will not be broken. So this is why he said that I would, that I would just check and steal the glances to see if Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is watching me. And whenever I would look towards him, and Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would turn away from me. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our gathering. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to first of all put the love and the respect and the honor of Quran and Hadith in our hearts, in our lives, and also give us the ability to adhere and practice upon the adab and the etiquettes of the masjid, and whatever lessons that we have learned of challenges. Obviously, we have children here. You also go through challenge. Your challenge is going to be different. Every person at different age in his life has a different challenge. When you are young, your challenge may be that, okay, I want this game, or I want this phone, or I want to go out with my friends, or I want to go and eat there. But that's a challenge for you. That's your challenge for you. So you have to think that, okay, is a challenge for me. My parents is saying no to me. They have stopped me and restricted me. But there is also goodness out. There's also a goodness in there. There's also a goodness in there. So when you are put through some test, you shouldn't, react in a way that you will regret afterwards. Always rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to practice upon what has been heard and what has been said. Allahumma ameen. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati ma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursaleen. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Bi rahmatika ya